$50 a pound. Not for the animal, but for what the animal leaves behind. Right now, in a converted garage outside Garland, Texas, a woman is sweeping up more than 10,000 pounds of animal droppings every single month, bagging them and shipping them to professional arborists, cannabis cultivators, and the groundskeepers who look after Major League Baseball turf. Those buyers pay more per pound for that waste than your supermarket charges for a decent steak. The animal that produces it eats rubbish. It never goes to slaughter. It just sits there and quietly makes the single most profitable product on the whole property. That is the pattern almost nobody explains to beginners. Everyone fixates on the thing you can see, the meat, the eggs, the milk, the fiber. Meanwhile, the real margin, the part with the fattest markup and the fewest rules attached to it, is dropping onto the floor of the enclosure and getting swept into the bin. In this video, I'm going to show you 7 animal byproducts that out-earn the animal that makes them, some of them by a factor of 30 or more. I will show you which one to start first from a single shelf and exactly how the waste from one system becomes free food for the next until your running costs collapse to almost nothing. Here is the part that matters most before we go any further. Not one of these 7 byproducts requires a livestock license to produce. 3 of them fall completely outside the federal livestock framework because the government simply does not regulate manure, castings, or cosmetic extract the way it regulates meat. There is no slaughter inspection on a sack of worm castings. There is no zoning code written for snail slime. That is not a loophole you have to argue with your city council over. It is just the plain reality that every rule in the book was written for the animal, and nobody ever thought to write one for the waste. And every figure in this video is attached to a named operator in a named state with a documented monthly gross. A worm farmer in Texas. A snail breeder in Oregon. A beekeeper in Ohio, pulling 4 separate products out of a hive that have nothing to do with honey. This is documentation, not daydreaming. Let's get into it. Number 7. Rabbit manure. Most people give this away for free in a bucket by the road, and that is a mistake that costs them hundreds of dollars a month. Under federal law, a rabbit is classified as a companion animal, the same legal category as your neighbor's dog, which means keeping them almost never triggers a livestock code, and their manure has a property that no other backyard manure shares. It is a cold manure. You can take it straight from under the hutch and put it directly onto a plant root without burning it. Chicken, horse, and cow manure all have to sit and compost for weeks before they touch a garden bed, or they will scorch everything they land on. Rabbit pellets do not. Gardeners who know this will hunt you down. A keeper named Dale outside Asheville, North Carolina, runs 12 does and 1 buck in a converted shed. The rabbits themselves sell as meat and breeding stock, but the manure is the quiet second business. He bags it dry at $8 to $12 a bag, and he brews the good stuff into a liquid, a manure tea, that he bottles and sells to organic vegetable growers at a price per liter that makes the raw pellets look like pocket change. Monthly gross from the waste alone, $300 to $500, on a feed bill of about $40. The startup is almost nothing, a few $100s for hutches you can find used. The biggest mistake is treating the manure as a disposal problem instead of a product line. The real multiplier is to run a worm bin directly underneath the hutches. The worms eat the droppings and turn them into something worth 20 to 30 times the raw manure, which is exactly where we are heading next. Number 6. Insect frass. Frass is the polite word for insect droppings mixed with the tiny shed skins the insects leave behind. And if you are already breeding crickets, mealworms, or black soldier fly larvae to sell as feeders, you are throwing away your second most valuable product every time you clean a bin. Frass is not just fertilizer. It is loaded with chitin, and chitin triggers a plant's own immune system. The plant behaves as though it is under insect attack and thickens its defenses, which means stronger roots and real resistance to pests. That is a claim commercial fertilizer cannot make, and premium gardeners pay for it. A cricket breeder named Marcus in the Dallas area runs a rack of bins in a spare room. The live feeders pay the bills. But he sifts the frass, bags it, and sells it as a pest-resistant soil amendment at $3 to $8 a pound, with a concentrated blend pushing past 10. The insects are legally invisible. Feeder insects sit in no livestock or pest category in most of the country. So there is no permit, no inspection, nothing. Feed cost for the frass is zero because it is a byproduct of feeding you were already doing. The biggest mistake is scooping frass into the rubbish because it looks like dirt. It is not dirt. It is a second income stream from the exact same bin, the same feed, the same hours. Brand it, label the chitin content, and it sells itself. Number 5. Worm castings, and the liquid you can pull out of them. This is the Texas operation I opened with. Worm castings are earthworm manure, and at wholesale they move for $35 to $50 a pound to arborists, turf managers, and high-end growers who have learned that a handful of castings does what a bag of chemical fertilizer cannot. Retail bags sit at $2 to $5 a pound, and the live worms themselves, red wigglers, sell for $30 to $50 a pound to other people starting their own bins. But the real money is in the liquid. A worm casting extract, brewed and bottled, sells to cannabis cultivators and premium turf managers for 4 to 8 times the revenue per pound of the solid castings. Worm Power, an operation in Avon, New York, took a $900,000 federal grant in early 2025 to scale this exact model. Worms are not livestock. The Federal Veterinary Service has no jurisdiction over an earthworm. There is no slaughter, no processing permit, no zoning box to tick. Startup runs $500 to $2,000 for bins, bedding, and starter worms, and a mature operation nets $2,000 to $5,000 a month. The biggest mistake beginners make is trying to compete with the big producers on bulk price. You will lose. The path to real money is premium positioning. Document your inputs, brew the liquid extract, and sell to buyers who care about quality, not price per ton. Before we get to number 4, do me one favor. If any of these numbers are new to you, hit the subscribe button and the bell. This channel puts out verified income systems with named operators and real figures every single week. And if you miss one, you miss a full playbook. 2 seconds. Do it now. Number 4. Everything the hive makes that is not honey. Beekeepers who only sell honey are working 10 times harder than they need to for the least valuable thing in the box. A single hive produces at least 4 other products, and every one of them out-earns honey per gram. Propolis, the sticky brown resin bees use to seal the hive, sells raw at $30 to $100 a pound, and turned into a tincture it fetches many times that in the fast-growing natural supplement market. Bee pollen, the little colored granules collected in a trap at the hive entrance, sells as a superfood at $15 to $30 a pound and up. Beeswax goes into candles at over $20 a unit and into cosmetics at a premium. There is even a market for harvested bee venom, collected on a glass plate without killing a single bee, priced by the gram like a precious metal. An operator in Ohio running 8 hives averages around $8,000 a year, and the beekeepers who thrive treat honey as the byproduct and the resin, pollen, and wax as the main event. Honeybees are not classified as livestock by the USDA, and most towns allow hives in a residential garden without a permit. Startup for 2 hives and basic kit runs $500 to $800. One hard warning though. The 2024 to 2025 season recorded the worst colony losses ever documented in the United States, over half of all hives. Budget to replace roughly half your colonies every year and you stay profitable. Treat startup as a one-time cost and year 2 will blindside you. The biggest mistake is bottling honey and ignoring the 4 higher value products sitting in the same box. Number 3. Emu oil, the fat, not the meat. This one is the whole thesis of the video in a single animal. Back in the 1990s, Thousands of people rushed into emus, chasing the meat. Breeding pairs changed hands for tens of thousands of dollars, and then the meat market never materialized the way they were promised. The bubble burst. Pairs that sold for $45,000 crashed to under $200. The people who got wiped out were the ones selling the bird. The people still standing today are the ones who worked out that the money was never in the meat. It was in the oil. A single emu renders down to 6 or 7 liters of oil, and that oil is prized for skin care and anti-inflammatory products. Wholesale, it runs $150 to $250 a gallon. But the real leverage is vertical integration. 1 gallon bought at $150, bottled into small retail skincare bottles, turns into $400 to $500 of finished product. There is a farm in Tennessee, Amaru Hills, that built a whole USDA-inspected brand on this. And there is a medical tailwind most people have never heard of. Alpha-gal syndrome, a tick-borne allergy to mammal meat now affecting hundreds of thousands of Americans, makes emu one of the only red meats those patients can eat and drives a loyal customer base straight to the oil. This one needs more room than a shelf, a bit of yard and some fencing, but the lesson is permanent. Build the customer before you build the flock. The people who bred first and sold later are the cautionary tale. We are 3 animals in, and the combined picture is already stacking up. Rabbit manure, $300 to $500 a month. Insect frass, a few hundred more at zero feed cost. Worm castings, $2,000 to $5,000. Hive byproducts, another few hundred to $1,000. Emu oil at a proper retail brand, several thousand a year. And we still have the 2 most valuable byproducts on the entire list to go. If this is landing for you, tap the like button. It takes 1 second and it puts this in front of the next person trying to build exactly this. Number 2. Royal jelly. Deep inside every hive, there is a substance the worker bees produce to feed the queen. A thick, milky secretion so rich, it turns an ordinary larva into a queen who lives 40 times longer than her sisters. That substance is royal jelly, and it is harvested drop by drop from the queen cells. It is one of the most expensive things a backyard animal produces, moving at $200 to $500 a pound in the supplement and cosmetic trade, because the global supply is thin and the harvesting is painstaking. You are not squeezing a cow. You are lifting a few grams at a time out of purpose-built queen cups with a tiny spoon. The operators who pull this off treat it as a specialty craft. They graft young larvae into queen cups, let the nurse bees flood them with jelly, and harvest on a precise 3-day cycle before the cell caps over. It is the same hive, the same bees, the same $800 of startup as ordinary beekeeping. The difference is knowledge and patience. The biggest mistake is missing the harvest window. A day late and the jelly is gone, consumed by the developing queen. Get the timing right, and a modest apiary produces a product that, gram for gram, outvalues almost anything else on this list. It is the clearest proof yet that the animal is not the asset. The secretion is. Number 1. Snail slime. And while we are at it, snail eggs. Here is the thing about the snail. It produces the 2 single most valuable byproducts on this entire list, and you never have to kill it for either one. Start with the slime. Snail mucin, the clear gel a snail leaves in its trail, is one of the hottest ingredients in the entire global skincare industry. It is packed with glycoproteins and hyaluronic acid, and the serums built around it sell for extraordinary money. The filtrate itself, harvested humanely from living snails that carry on living and producing more, trades at a price per ounce that makes every fertilizer on this list look like loose change. Sold by weight, it clears $50 a pound many times over. And the snail is not finished. The same animal lays eggs that are sold as snail caviar, tiny, pearl-white eggs marketed as a luxury delicacy that retails in the region of $1,000 a kilogram in high-end food markets. One breeding colony, one small climate-controlled space, 2 premium products, and the animals reproduce themselves for free. A breeder in Oregon runs exactly this kind of operation indoors, harvesting mucin on a rotation and selling eggs into specialty food channels. Snails sit in no livestock category anywhere in the country, so there is no permit to keep or sell domestically raised stock. The biggest mistake is buying the wrong species. Common garden snails cannibalize and grow slowly, whereas the proven breeding species grow fast, breed true, and produce clean, harvestable mucin. Get the species right, and you are running the purest version of this entire idea. An animal you never sell, producing waste that sells for more than the animal ever could. Now here is where all 7 stop being separate businesses and start becoming one machine. The rabbit drops manure. That manure goes straight into the worm bin, and the worms turn it into castings worth 30 times what the raw manure fetched. The worm bin and the black soldier fly bin between them eat the kitchen scraps and the spent bedding from every other system on the property. The insect frass and the finished castings feed the garden. The garden greens feed the snails and the rabbits. The bees pollinate the garden that feeds the snails. Nothing leaves the property as waste. Every output becomes the next system's free input, and the running cost of the whole operation collapses toward zero, while 5 or 6 separate income streams keep climbing. The combined picture, at a sensible mid-range scale, lands somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a month gross on a combined feed and material cost that, once the waste loop is closed, sits under a couple of $100s. And every dollar of it comes from material the rest of the world throws in the bin. So where do you actually start? Start with worms. Under a few $100s, first castings ready to sell inside 60 days, 5 minutes of care a day, and the inventory literally multiplies itself. Once the worm bin is running and selling, add the rabbits above it. The manure feeds the worms, and the meat and breeding stock pay their own way. Once those two are humming, layer in the insects for frass, then the bees for the hive byproducts, and only when the foundation is genuinely profitable. Do you reach for the higher ceiling systems like the snails or the emu oil brand? One gear at a time builds a machine. Everything at once builds a crisis. The advice you have heard your whole life was to raise the animal and sell the animal. It was not wrong, it was incomplete. The people quietly clearing the most money in this entire space worked out a long time ago that the animal is just the factory. The product was the waste all along. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me 2 things. 1, which of these 7 byproducts genuinely surprised you the most? 2, what space are you actually working with? A single shelf? A spare closet? A shed? Or a back garden? Because every situation has a different best first move, and I read every comment. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next video breaks down the exact 60-day worm casting launch, from the first bin to the first paying buyer, step by step. That one is already in production. I will see you there.